So a lot's happened since we last talked, where we were just unpacking the first Black Bachelor and Matt Jane. The day after we had our conversation, all of this stuff just kind of blew up. So I think if we should start off talking about Rachael and Rachael K and her situation, and then we can go into Chris and his apology. And then I know we just have a lot of stuff that we can.
I mean, I guess like his final four are her, Rachael, this girl who all of this shitstorm is around. I think a biracial girl, a Black woman with two Black parents, and I forgot what they said like the other girl was. So I was like, oh wow, like, I will admit when I'm wrong. But like no spoilers, but spoilers. I mean, the rumored winner is who we think she's going to be, allegedly. So, I remember early on with this casting and hearing about this girl and them even allow her to be on a season. And that kind of speaks to like the same conversation we were having last week. It's like, why would you put a known, I'm just going to call her a racist because the things that she said and done are racist. And like, I don't care how well-meaning or sweet this little white girl is, like if it looks like a dog and sounds like a dog, it's a dog. So like, I just think it's really messed up production to put people on the show like that. But again, if like that's who he's attracted to and he's dealing with his or not dealing with his own shit, then like who am I to judge him? Now, of course, like because Twitter is what it is, and listen, these detectives out here will find every last thing you did or say, whether it was deleted or not. Of course, they found some stuff on her, including making fun of like other white girls who dated Black men in the past, these Southern parties, antebellum or plantation parties. I'm not really familiar. And even from the clips, the season trailer for The Bachelor, you hear there's a clip where she says, "I don't see race," And again, like production does what it does. Obviously, they can cut things up to draw an audience, even if things were not said in that order. Production can create a narrative, right? So I was like, I'm not gonna be like too judgmental on her for that because like we don't know the full scene. Well, it turns out it's what she said what she said, So like saying I don't see race, I don't see color, like that's like red flag number one. Like to me, if a guy said that to me, I'd be like, we can't, because what that tells me is, my race and identity is part of who I am. You have to see my race because that my life experiences are really ingrained in that. It's telling me that you don't want to deal with this shit. So like you can pretend to be colorblind and like that's not okay.
Right.
The other thing, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. And I was just like the thing with not seeing race and then getting into a relationship where, we're supposed to believe that these people get married after the show. Right. And if they're going to get married and have a kid, and we live in America where it's a one drop rule, so she would be the mother to a Black child, like you can't not see, like, that's not an option. And you just need to do a little bit more homework before you decide you're going to go on a show to intentionally date a Black man and then say that you don't see anything that they've had to experience or live through is my thought on that. But my body temperature just went up like 15 degrees because I didn't even know about that. And I am enraged when people say that comment, but and to your point about her background, like, I don't know what the vetting process is that The Bachelor goes through, or did they know about these things and decide like, oh, this will cause some drama and, and really stir things up? Or like, can they just hire some of these people on the Reddit threads to check out their people, the contestants, and be like, just tell us everything we need to, but what's even worse to me is thinking that, like, I think there's one point where they just didn't do their due diligence and look into who they're putting on the show. But what I think is even worse is if they did do that due diligence, they did know about these things and decided either A, it doesn't matter, or B, that it'll be good for entertainment's sake. And I think maybe it's good that it's starting some important conversations that people should be having, but bringing something like this on for entertainment's sake or drama's sake is it's at Black people's expense. And it's not, I mean, that's like how America is built. So of course that makes sense that we would do that, but it's just, to me, it's a step beyond ignorance, and it's almost like willful harm.
Yeah. And I too, I agree with you, but like the pessimist in me fully feels like, I just feel like with all of the money that ABC and that franchise has, you cannot convince me that they didn't do their due diligence. I
Yeah.
fully believe that they knew what they were getting with this girl,
Mm-hmm.
and it would make for good TV and an interesting conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because truthfully, anytime a contestant has some interesting background that comes up, they know the internet's gonna like leech onto it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but like again, and I don't think they've gotten to the hometown dates yet in this season. But I'm like, you're potentially setting up this man to go home with this girl in an environment that not only is not welcoming, but could be unsafe for him.
Mm-hmm.
Just to like see what happens, you know? And I'm like, that's just absolutely disgusting to me. You
Mm-hmm.
know, maybe I'm thinking about it too deeply. And again, I feel like if Matt, I mean, again, Matt had to choose her. So like at some point, I guess he is part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? You know, her family could end up being quite lovely. You know, they could end up being people to like give out how to be an anti-racist to like all of their country friends. Who knows? But something's telling me that's not the case here. um, and so I just feel like, at what point do we draw the line of like, this is entertainment, and should people of color's discomfort be a source of entertainment?
I feel like people like her are some of the most harmful to the cause, because she probably came on the show thinking that she's not racist. Like she's probably like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and like I'm open to dating a Black guy. Like I'm the opposite of racist. And then, but then going out and having conversations and being portrayed to a lot of other white people who are like her as someone who's not racist because she's down to date a Black guy. But in reality, all these little R's add up, and each of the little R's are harmful too, and I think there's a lot about our, like, even for me personally, about like my past that I am really embarrassed about and wish I would have handled differently, and absolutely would have handled differently if I had the information that I had now. But even that's not really an excuse for it, and it's just, but it's like, it's a fact of life, and there's so much like guilt and shame with that you have to deal with, and then you apologize and take accountability and hold others accountable moving forward, and like that's what that and but I just think that I'm seeing so many comments of people that are like, well, she's not racist, everybody's making this dramatic. But things like these Old South Antebellum parties that's extremely problematic, and things like making fun of people for dating Black men, that's very problematic. It's like all of these things add up and are really harmful to like progress moving forward. And it's this idea of being like, it's like, well, I don't wear a white hood, I don't fly a Confederate flag, so I'm not the problem. But actually, like almost all of us white people are part of the problem, and it's just going to be like an experience to keep fixing. I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent that doesn't make any sense.
And I'm very curious to know more about these like South Antebellum parties, because like this is news to me. I didn't even know this was a thing. Like when I found out about this, when the first time I'd heard about this was when Chris Harrison like was on with Rachael Lindsay, and I saw the pictures and I was like, wait, this is an actual thing. Like this is a themed party that like people do. I don't know why I was surprised, because like there's themed parties for everything that are absolutely deplorable and ridiculous and racist and a lot of other things. So I don't know why I was so shocked, but I'm like, oh wow, like this is really a thing people did. So I mean, if you could like provide clarity, like
Yeah.
like please do share with me. Like I'm this is news to me.
Yeah. So, okay. So because I went to college in the South and I was in a white sorority, and our sororities and fraternity system was completely divided. There were white sororities and black sororities. I think in my sophomore year, I think it was the first Black girl that had come through Rush before for a white sorority. And we
Oh wow.
previously, my sorority had been singing, we had like changed up the words to the song Dixie to be about our sorority. And we were like, oh, well, now we have to change our Rush song because people who aren't white are going to have their feelings hurt by it, and it's like, that is so fucked up now, thinking back to that now. But like and it's just a way that I'm not saying like everybody in Georgia is this way, but like if you think about just the way that celebrations in the state are set up, like one of the big attractions is Stone Mountain, I think is what it's called. And families come from all over the state to come to see this like laser light show on Stone Mountain. And then at the end, like the Confederate flag comes up. Is kind of like I can't remember, like a light show dedicated that's showing like Confederate soldiers and Robert E. Lee, and everybody's like clapping and cheering. And it's this big attraction in the state of Georgia. And it wasn't unusual when I was in college to just stumble across Civil War reenactments where people are fully dressed in like costume, which is just, I don't know. I like at the time I thought it was really strange and interesting and different. And now I don't even know what I think about that. Like, why? I don't know why it's happening. And it's like, when we're thinking about it as in, we don't see people reenacting World War II. We don't see people dressed up as Nazis and reenacting what happened there. So like, what is this about, and why? And it's not any more okay than it would be if we saw people doing that, because this was about centuries of horrific abuse and everything. So I think I want to give some of that background on just like my experience in Georgia and how the Greek life is set up in any way. I don't know if that's helpful, but then there's one fraternity that their big event of the year is Old South. And this is where there are stores dedicated to it, like shops dedicated to this event in Georgia or in Athens, where, they make and sell the Confederate uniforms, and they make and sell these antebellum dresses for people to get to wear to the event, which is so interesting. And so there's like a big event on the Friday. I think there was maybe some kind of parade that used to happen where everybody's in their outfits and they parade around, and then the next day everybody goes out of town and goes to this formal, like a nice, they go to like the Ritz in Charleston and have a band play and stuff. It doesn't make, as I'm trying to say this out loud, it makes no sense. I can't put any of this together. I don't think that people attending it were thinking anything about how harmful it is or how bad it is, but it is what it is. That's what it is. So
yeah. Well, thank you for that clarity. I guess it's like people who get married at plantations, or like plantations being wedding venues, where I'm like, and you know what? Let me back up and say, I used to be one of those people who was like, oh, they're gorgeous. Like those parts of the South, they're like quite stunning. The land and the like magnolia trees, and and I'm like, oh, what a lovely venue. And then someone had to pull me out of like that, like,
yeah.
and I was like, oh shit, you're right.
Yeah.
People die here. Like,
yeah.
Like those beautiful magnolia trees, like probably people were lynched and hung there. Like, and a lot of these plantations like are literal slave burial grounds. And so I was like, you know what? Thanks for getting me together, friends. Like, you're absolutely right. But I think that also comes with like how we learn history, you know, like we don't really learn a lot about like plantation life and you know.
Yeah. And also I hope that my explanation of all that didn't sound like I was defending people who do it. Like I just think there's a lot of context that is probably kind of helpful to understand, like how you even end up in an antebellum dress at a party. Like,
yeah, no, I understand now. That was like the thing. I just saw a picture and I was like, what is happening? I don't know what this is, you know, but like, so Chris Harrison went on a podcast with Rachael Lindsay, who was the first Black Bachelorette, and essentially defended Rachel K's behavior, or was he in defense of it, or was he saying that people shouldn't gang up on her because she did these things in the past and she was young and didn't know better?
I think it was both.
Yeah.
As it was internalized racism on display, and you know, I don't know, was he defending her or
yeah, you know, I just also, and I said this to you, I think when we were texting about this, I find it really interesting his need to like jump to this girl's defense, like the rate in which she became like a victim to me is extremely problematic, and also speaks to a tradition of, well, God, the tradition of like, especially young white women in relation to Black men becoming victims in ways that like, I'm like, you placed yourself in this. Yes. I don't understand. Like, you are not a victim. And I'm not saying that like Matt is looking like a villain against her, but I think oftentimes like, you know, white women are quickly become, you know, like a damsel in distress that needs to be saved, you know? And I don't understand why even Chris needed to move to like flap his gums about this situation, because, you know, there's so much like, you can't deny the evidence that we see as wrong. And also he was talking about it like this happened in like 1956. Like, sir, 2018 was 3 years ago. Like, you know, and again, like Black Lives Matter had already been out here. There had been many of movements and times to educate yourself. You know, we're not talking about pre-Me Too, pre-Black Lives Matter. We're like
pre-internet,
like the internet, like, Google, like, you know, Instagram, like none of this, you know. So even his argument was real. His argument made no sense. Like I was like, there is no excuse for her. She has no excuse. She should know better. And at that point, I don't know, was she like 18 or 19, which again speaks to how old this girl, I think this girl was like 23 years old. But like, you have enough sense, you know. And I said this to you, if my 20-month-old niece can figure out how to skip the ads on her iPad, you, ma'am, can go to Google and like Google these antebellum parties, you know. Or well, I'm sorry.
Another thing about these parties that I probably should mention earlier is that that fraternity that hosts them, their national headquarters or whoever the governing body of it said we're not allowed to have those anymore. Like, they've been not allowed to be having them for, I think at that point, for a few years leading up to that. So this was like an underground antebellum party, which is so there's even less of an I mean, not to say there is any excuse, but like there's even more information that you had going into that party, like knowing that it's wrong, knowing that it's not allowed and you have to do it in secret, like that. I think that's just another part of what they could have known. And him saying that 50 million people went to it, like, sure, maybe all time 50 million people went to this party, but like there's 50 million people that did a lot of other shit that is not okay at all.
Right.
Like there were however many people that stormed the Capitol a few weeks ago, and that doesn't mean we can all go storm the Capitol. Like, what, are you serious? Like 70 million people voted for Donald Trump. That doesn't mean that makes it okay. Like, I'm so,
the numbers
argument,
don't justify the deed. It's still wrong any way you shake it, whether it's one person that goes or 15 million. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. And so Chris, after this interview, the backlash came in, and he's now taken a break or stepped away. Know your thoughts on like Chris's like iOS press release and his apology and him stepping away for a minute.
Yeah. I feel like it is all a move for the best possible like publicity. This was the best publicity move he could have made. I don't know much about him, but I don't believe that it was because, you know, Chris feels he needs to step away and do a search and understand racism better. Like, no, I think he's doing what he is told he has to do to save the franchise and keep a paycheck, probably, because I'm sure he's still going to keep getting paid lots of money from all of this. I don't know what I want from them. Like, it's not my apology to accept. So it doesn't really even matter what I think, but like, you know, just in my head, I'm kind of like, what would make this okay? You know, like what would make them come out on the right side of this?
When people like issue these kinds of like apologies, is like, what is your goal with this? You know, like, what are you trying to achieve? You know, is it that your publicist or your team is like, look, you got to put something out because listen, we trying to sign some sponsorship deals, or you got like, you know, they're trying to figure out if we're going to have you host, you know, another season. The decision's coming up. So can you just like pacify the masses so that we can move on? Or are you approaching this humbly with like, I made a mistake and I need to own that, and I recognize that I'm somebody of influence or have a platform, and that a lot of people like me or look up to me or whatever, and so I owe that to them. I think Chris is a well-meaning white dude. He doesn't seem like that harmful. He just hasn't had to have these kinds of conversations. This is not part of his everyday life, and like his true feelings from his lived experiences came out of his mouth. And like, I think for me, I don't really know how he got into that conversation. I haven't listened to the podcast to, you know, be transparent, but I feel like if I were him, like the easy answer is like, look, I don't have enough context on this to speak soundly on it. You know, I recognize that what she did in the past was not a good look. Was I mean, just to say like, yeah, that was a racist thing she did, but I don't know enough about this girl or B enough about the situation to really give a sound opinion about her either way.
Yeah, that's all he had to say.
Like, yes, that's all he had to say. I don't know why he felt like he needed to jump off of Niagara Falls to her defense. You know,
right?
Like he left, like he could not wait, and so I just feel like, yeah, I don't know what the point of it was, and so, and then also what the audience wants. Like, I'm not part of the main audience, but I would love to know, like, as an audience member, when he said that, like, what would you have wanted from him? Like, what is the outcome? You want a new host of the show? Do you want the show to be over completely? Because I mean, this point, the season's filmed, so like that's not, and it's on TV and on ABC, so that's not going to happen. So sometimes I also wish that we would be more thoughtful about the things that we're asking of people when they mess up. And then also these people be more thoughtful of like, what is it that they're trying to achieve when they're trying to appease or atone for their mistakes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I can tell you what I don't want to see. And I mean, even though, and again, just saying that it's not for me to decide. I am like a white lady who is not harmed at all by any of this, just like very angry. But what I don't want to see is what that Hannah Brown, is that her name? The one for the Bachelorette Hannah, who used the N-word in her Instagram live and, you know, issued her her iOS press release about it.
Yeah.
And then nothing else ever came out again. So like, I just think when you do mess up, like I said, you take accountability, you take steps to make sure that you don't do this again, and that you fully understand like how this happened and what's going on inside of you that allowed this to happen. You do everything you can to make sure that other people are held accountable also, and do everything, like do what you can to educate other people about it. And she said, okay, sorry. And then life went back to normal, and we never heard anything about like her experience, her learning, anything like that ever again. And it was just like a tiny blip. And I can tell you what else I don't want to see, which is a rumor that 80% of the incoming cast for the next season is going to be non-white contestants. And okay, but like we're not fixing anything by doing that. You know, it's that saying like, okay, our company has super racist practices. We're just going to do everything we can to hire a bunch of Black people, but knowing that they're not going to be able to get promoted in the company, they won't be able to be successful here. And we can't, you know, like, and we're not even going to take any time. We're not going to examine what is even the systemic issue here that's causing us to be in this place in the first place. And that's just, it makes me so mad. And because it feels it's performative. It's saying like, okay, we're just going to do this to show everybody that, you know, to make sure it's very obvious that we're not racist. But that is not it. Like, that's not the answer. You have to do a lot more work besides just putting some tokens in there. Even if it's 80% tokens, it's still tokens.
Like, I mean, that's a good point. It's like, are we going to have 80% Matt Jameses? Because that's not, and I didn't see that post. Do you know if it's going to be a Bachelor season or a Bachelorette season?
I can't remember.
Okay. Because I think that also, I think that also has some play into it. I did not see that, and that's really interesting. But again, I think, I mean, like I said last week, I would watch a season of The Bachelor where it was all people of color, including a head that was a person of color, because one, I'd be just interested in the conversations that they would have. B, I wonder if it would be approached the same way when it's like an all white cast, where it's just like none of this stuff is like an issue or like a thing, not an issue, like a thing, you know? And it's just people being messy, like always, trying to find love, you know? I don't think by making the cast 80% more of color is going to fix the issues.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter if there are, of a cast of 30, if you have 20 people of color and 10 white folks, and I don't know at this point who the like Bachelor or Bachelorette is going to be, if you still aren't, like you said, providing systems where people are feeling supported and comfortable, and avenues to have the conversations that need to be had in a way that's not performative, or again, playing to the white gaze, then what is the point? Just leave the show with the formula that's been working for you all for, I don't even know how many years now. How long has The Bachelor been on? Like
18 years.
18 years. Yeah. Like the show is going to college. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a college freshman. Like that's insane to me. Like, so I guess for me, the biggest question I have is like, why? What is the point? You know, why? And again, maybe there are audience analytics that they're looking into and polling to see like their audience wants this, which in that case, fine. But I truly can't believe the crux of the Bachelor franchise audience could give two fucks either way. Excuse my language. Like, I think, you know, people are here for the mess, and I'm wondering too if like most of like the ride or die fans are annoyed to be having these first anyway. Like if they would rather just see like Hannah Brown and Pilot Pete, like I said, you know, like do they even care? Because, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. You know, I think so. Them bringing on Matt James was a result of, I think, an ultimatum from Rachael Lindsay saying that she's not going to stay affiliated with the Bachelor franchise if they don't take action. And then B, there was a change.org petition, but I went and clicked into it, and it had, I think, 200,000 signatures on it in the end, which, okay, that's a lot, but compared to how many people watch The Bachelor, it's really not a lot. But good for them for mobilizing, good for that fraction of them. I think there is a fraction of the nation that the Bachelor nation that wants to see it. But also, well, but I mean, I'm wondering, I want to see and I know I always think of Venn diagrams, but like there are the people who sign that petition, and then there are also all the Bachelor Nation that's commenting on Rachel K's Instagram apology, saying people are just going to pick on you for everything. You didn't even do anything wrong. Like, you're so great. Keep doing what you're doing. And like all these white ladies thinking it's their apology to accept, and that they totally get what happened. Like, how many of these people that signed it are in that, like, because I'm also like, how many of these people are virtue signaling also? So it's just.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, does the Venn diagram ever cross over? Yeah, I think we know the answer. And I still, honestly, I just really feel like this Rachael girl is going to finish the season and still not have any clue, like, her issues, I think you also have to place some ownership on Matt. Like, if that's the girl he picks, and if he's fine with the apology, like with the apology she's given her past and her explanations of her past, and like, part of me also is like, who am I to judge him? Because that seems to work for him.
If he does choose her, and and they stay together, or whatever happens with their relationship, I'm like, and if she doesn't take any steps that we can see that are to reconcile with what she's done, I hate the idea that it's giving other people permission. It's like, and it shouldn't be on one person. It shouldn't be on Matt James. I mean, he really has nothing going on anyway. So like, we shouldn't be doing anything that he's doing and saying anything that he's doing is giving us permission. But the way that, like, I think the majority of America sees it is that this is how it is, and this is a Black man, and this is a white woman, and see, she's not racist. It's fine. I can be also similarly problematic and do none of the work and be with a Black man and insert myself into all of these different places where I'm actually really causing harm, and never have to deal with it or come to terms with it or do anything to make things better. And that's where I'm like less okay with him picking her. Like, that's where it's like, it's a little bit more than just who a game show contestant picks. It's like,
I mean, actually, thank you for saying that, because I think you nailed it, like, especially with media and representation. Like, I think I have 2 points. I think we still fully don't, as consumers of media, really understand how much influence it has on our lives and the way we shape our identities, like the way we view each other and other people. And the only reason I harp on that is because, like, I got my master's degree in, like, media and public relations, and I did a lot on my dissertation had a lot to do with, like, identity and, like, its connection to representation. And so I don't think people, whether they consciously, or like whether they're cognizant of it or not, the media shapes how we view ourselves and others. And so you're right, like, people are going to see themselves in this situation and either have it affirm their own thoughts and beliefs. Or in the case of a lot of white people, make them so uncomfortable that they shut down and don't want to engage with it at all. And I agree with you. And I just think that like, yeah, like it's continuous. It never ends. And I know we said that before, but it really truly is. And I think that it goes with so many different things. And, again, like, I think when we talk about diversity and racism in this country, it is very black and white just because of the conflict, the history of this country and the way it was like built and formed. But it's so nuanced and has so many layers to it. And I think, especially for people of color, we get to maybe explore the nuances a little bit more than white people for a lot of different reasons, And I think in regards to Matt and your point, and as someone who's been in situations like this before, I think what I would like a lot of white people to recognize is like, you may have that one black friend, you may have two black friends that allow you to say and do certain things, but then you need to recognize that we, again, are not a monolith. Our experiences are not all the same. So you can come across another black person who's like, hold up, you can't use that word, or I don't identify as this, or you cannot come at me this way. I don't know you, And so I think that comes with the fact that as black people, oftentimes we get portrayed in this very specific way that makes all of our experiences the same. So when someone says, oh, it's okay to do this, and then someone sees that, they then go through the rest of their life being like, well, that black person said okay this, and they're on a national platform, so it must be fine. And you're like, no. My biggest thing is like, I want more people to understand that like we are human and have interesting ranges of identities. And in conclusion, maybe that's what the Bachelor franchise is trying to do, is give us more, but they're gonna need some help. They're gonna need to do better. And I guess shout out to Rachel Lindsay for being like, I'm not gonna take part in any of this anymore unless you do better. I guess she's a really popular Bachelorette in the system. I wasn't a fan of her, but so it's nice, but it's, I guess people were or are, so it's nice that she is using her clout to like force them to put their money where their mouth is, and if they do that, great. But if they're not going to really fully commit, then like just chuck the deuces and go back to like how it used to be,
Yeah, well, we tried, and
like we failed, so we're just gonna go back to vanilla town, which fine.
But I'll also say there are some situations I've been a part of where I've seen people fail miserably and like do a pretty bad job, and then listen and take time and like actually learn what needs to happen and come back and do something productive. And so I can think of two people, but but I hope like that I've experienced in my life in like professional settings and personal settings. So I do hope, it would be cool if we could see it work out, but I kind of think that, it would be cool if we could see it become a positive force in a way that people can learn from. But I'm kind of with you with it's not for us anyway. It's for that other part of America that we're not invited to, we're not a part of. Like we don't go there.
Just let them have it. Like,
yeah.
yeah.